So when I left um, my medical device role, I was moving into coaching, and I first started to coach in a path that wasn't so impactful. A lot of coaches, a lot of people's perception on coaches is like it's only life coaching, and you're sitting there and you're just talking about people's problems, and
Mm, mm.
it's all about hippy dippy spirituality. And I think a lot of people think that. And I got into when I first started, that's kind of the section I like fell into immediately, and I was like, oh, this doesn't feel right. This is not where I want to be. This is not what I want.
A bit maybe airy fairy in a way.
Yeah, there was no structure, or um there was no, like, you couldn't see the process. You couldn't see the process of like where you'd be taking someone from and to. And then I started to coach athletes out of transition into the business world. And that has a much more process driven coaching structure. So, for example, you do help with the emotional side of things. Obviously, coaches aren't therapists, so anything intense, you always make sure that you're talking to your clients to go and seek professional help on that level. But the guidance is, actionable steps, and to do programs that are like, if you take this action, you're going to get this result. And usually by taking this action, you then move on to the next step. And where people need to be coached the most, and I mean, I'd say in sport, I knew what the next step was, but sometimes you need a little
Yeah,
accountability.
because sorry to cut you off, Tanya, because you yourself, you played basketball at the highest level.
Yeah, so I was a professional for a few years. I left sport because there wasn't a very good income structure. So playing professional sport in Australia, you don't get paid very well. And so I chose to leave that industry. And I've always had a hard time with that transition process and the identity shift from being an athlete. For 10 plus years, I was an athlete. I'm very tall. I am sitting on a high chair, so it doesn't look like I'm even taller than what I am. But that was my identity. Everyone would be like, oh, you're the basketballer, or like, how's this? And the only question anyone would ever ask me was around basketball. So then when I was no longer a basketball, I was kind of like, well, who am I? Who am I? What do I like? What do I like? I don't even know, because I spent 30 plus hours a week playing sport.
Doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. Watching film, getting recovery, being with my teammates. And then when I wasn't doing that, I was like sleeping because your body's exhausted. So that stopped, and you kind of like, what am I good at? What am I here for? What's going on? So that process was really difficult, and that's where a lot of athletes, it's really sad, they lose their way. One of the young men that I went to University of Hawaii with, where I was a student athlete, last year, maybe the years go so fast. It's either 2020 or 2021. He was the Heisman Trophy winner, like, and an unbelievable athlete. He overdosed on drugs. He had a long history of prescription abuse after playing sport, because he just couldn't find his way in the world.
It's sad, isn't it? Yeah.
It's so sad. And then I had another friend that committed suicide from basketball last year, and in 2020, and that was difficult. And I kept seeing that, I've heard these stories, I've seen it, and that's where I was like, okay, wow, now I get it. I know how to put my business acumen and commercialization into the processes and the structure, where these people can take that information and implement it immediately, from a level of understanding of their identity, like who are they and how can they move forward. And I love that part, but I really missed the healthcare workers. So I loved working with healthcare workers. I love their intellect. I love their humors. I love, how playful they are and how hard they work. And there was another element of my business that I was like, okay, well, that side fulfills me from an impact side, from my sporting career and my pool of like, I want to give back and help where I was. And I was able to create a relatively, some may say, relatively good structure for myself and get into a really good corporate job and stay there for quite some time. And then that's when, maybe about 4 months ago, I then took the process that I've been using and looking at how I can implement it into a healthcare sector. So the
Wow.
second part of the business is working with dentists. So helping them grow their practices um, through a simplified system that, that scales. So helping them scale their business so they have more time and freedom in their
Well, why
businesses.
dentists, Tanya? I never really asked you why dentists in particular.
Well, as a healthcare practitioners, they're one of the highest practitioners that are prone to suicide.
Wow, really?
They're the practitioners that struggle the most with identity, because a lot of dental practice owners, here in Australia and in the US, I've been doing a lot of research on this. They have one facade of who they are to everyone else, driving a nice car, having a nice house, having the practice, but not feeling great about themselves on the inside and kind of like a duck underwater. So they may have like huge mortgages that are paying for those cars and those houses, and they're like stressing every single month how to get over, how to make sure that they're paying that imposter syndrome.
That lifestyle, maybe, so to
That
speak.
lifestyle, that lifestyle they're supposed to have as a dentist. And they work so much, and it's quite funny. So you have this part of the healthcare sector, you have this part of the community where they spend and dedicate this is where I see the comparisons. They dedicate their entire life to their profession, learning, the tactical skills, the educational, the didactics. They're doing all of these things every weekend or every second weekend. They're dedicating their time to research or education. Yet no one teaches them business practices.
Interesting.
And it can make, be so much easier if you just have, the cheat sheet, the fast path to success. So there are some dentists out there that know how to do it on their own, but very, very rarely has a dentist double majored in business and understand, business foundations and how to make their practice run really smooth and have fun while they're doing what they love and serving, they serve their community at the highest level. Teeth are an extremely important part of our body. Again, another thing that you can make an impact with their, they're making an impact with their patients every single day so quickly.
You do.
Veneers or this is so cute. There was a guy that's like local in this area who works at the local store, and we've all been wearing masks for a long time, and I could see him smiling under his mask. I was like, oh, he seems so happy today. He's like, yeah, I finally got my teeth.
Lovely.
And I was like, what? And he was like, I finally got my teeth. I've been waiting for so long for them to be replaced, and I haven't been smiling because I didn't have my teeth. And I was like, and he was just so, he was like a different, I always thought he was like a little bit cranky, but I didn't realize it was because I guess he had some issues with his teeth, and he was like waiting for some government grant to come in. And so I'm just like, if I can make an impact for people that are making such a huge impact in the community, then I get to make an income, have a lot of fun, and
love it, Tanya.
We can grow it. So
brilliant.
I guess that's what it means to me, like impact. Impact to me is like seeing like an immediate or the result of whatever it is that you're doing. I mean, obviously I have the intelligence and I have the resources to just go sell whatever.
Anything really. I'm sure you have the capability to really do anything.
But I don't want to, because it's like, I don't know, it just doesn't drive me. Whereas this drives me to get up in the morning and get excited. And
it's important, hey? You need this. Just to me, you. The more I talk to you, the more I'm feeling this deeper mission, and that's really giving you that oomph. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if you're a spiritual man or if anyone's on here, but it is. I don't mind me saying it, but I was
go for it.
having quite a difficult time, and I was praying, and I was like, God, I don't know what my message and my mission is. Like, come, please use me, because I don't want to just be like 50 years old, waking up being like, what did I do? How did I help anyone? Like, what am I doing in this life? And these things have just like kind of, it's like these little seeds that have been left on the ground to follow the path. So I'm having a lot of fun. And it might sound quite strange being a business consultant or business coach to two very separate parts of the community, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's interesting, Tanya, where you mentioned that when you were at that previous medical device company, it conditioned you That's an interesting word you use. Conditioned you to run a structured process where you saw the journey basically
Mm-hmm.
from delivery all the way to an outcome, because you
Mm-hmm.
saw that impact, didn't it? And now you're applying that, whether it be dentists looking to improve their business practices to
Mm-hmm.
help them bring back their own identity, or
Mm-hmm.
likewise athletes in terms of getting back into the real world. um, it's interesting conditioning. So is it because when you're at that previous company, that's what gave you that sort of clue, or have you always wanted to really make that impact?
I've always wanted to make an impact, and a good income, obviously.
Mm,
I One of the reasons that I chose this company is that I knew that they were um, super successful, and also doing some really cool things in innovation and how they were helping people. I actually went for my first job interviews. I went for orthopedics, and I'm so happy that I didn't get it. So
mm,
how they always say sometimes the best thing that can happen is you don't get that job. So I was
yeah.
like so disappointed, and I was like, oh. And then they called me up and they said, hey, there's a role within this in the CMF, so the craniomaxillofacial team and neurosurgery team that you might really like and be perfect for. And I was like, seriously, like, who
Go
do I
for it.
have to meet? Like, how do I get there? So I like ran, and
Yeah, yeah.
it makes me laugh because when I first started, I couldn't say craniomaxillofacial properly because I was like, oh my gosh, it seems so hard to say. But then, I mean, obviously, you just break it
Now
down. And
you're rolling at
exactly, I've said it enough times.
it.
So
Yeah,
yeah, but I think the conditioning part is the same as sport, and I think that Tony Robbins says success leaves clues, and it's very true. So that conditioning, that process, that where you've started from and being able to see from A to Z, like I want to be this is how I want to be at the end of this process. How do I get there? And I think that's where coaching comes in to play in how you can make the biggest impact is being able to take a disheveled mind in a way, or someone that may have complex thought processes, or there's like a lot going on, and then being able to like compartmentalize it into the processes and the steps to get the outcome. So this is how I have seen how my coaches have coached me. I've always had what I'm thinking within my mind, but it was completely disheveled. Like it was so all over the place. And then they'll ask me questions where I'm able to then put it into different brackets. I'm like, oh, okay, so this goes here.
interesting.
This goes
Is that a framework or
here.
something, Tanya, or that they can? Is that a framework that these coaches apply to get you to organize your thoughts? So that's interesting, actually.
Um, I don't think on purpose. So
Okay,
it's some people have asked me questions, but I guess it's like how my brain works. So some people, I mean, I guess they would have a framework, but though there's frameworks that are like super rigid, and then you're not actually going to get because it's like, oh, you have to tick a box in all of these sections. Um, my sister's a coach, and she's just asked me questions before, like 2 or 3 questions that has been able to me to speak my thoughts out loud, and then I'm like, oh, okay, this goes here, and this is these are the steps I need to go
like you said,
in.
you're compartmentalizing each one.
So yeah, the framework or the section is, I guess because I have a few different coaches. It's like not all within the same spectrum.
Interesting. And now you're able to apply what you've learned into your businesses.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess
Wow,
all
very cool.
businesses have their own framework or structure or processes. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of fun learning how to do it. And before I would get so like the confidence part of it. So before working in a really high stress, I guess going back to my job, my role in healthcare, it was high stress, high pressure all the time. Like I might get a phone call at 11 o'clock at night saying that there needs to be some kind of a kit in a hospital that might be 1 hour away. And then I need to call, the on-call person to make sure that they've got the kit. Then the driver has to make sure it gets there. Then I need to micromanage the steps to make sure that, sterilization sterilizes the kits. and then that no one loses it or no one not sees it and it's in a box because there's a patient on the table at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. and they need that to be
Wow.
served. And
That
that might
so that impact is that direct?
yeah.
Interesting.
I've had a surgeon call me before at like 8 p.m. on a Sunday and said he needed the kit on Monday morning. And the kit wasn't in the warehouse. So I had to go find the kit, take it to the warehouse for them to check it all in, make sure I had all the plates and screws that I needed in it. Then I waited at there to then drive it to the hospital. And then the hospital, it's called CSSD, the sterilization department, wasn't open. So I was sleeping in my car until I was able to give it to them. Then I was like, this needs to be done immediately. There's a patient on the table at this time. And it's funny because a lot of the surgeons have no idea at all. You're like running around and they're like, oh,
they just see this end product. They don't know what Tanya has done before that to get them over.
Some of them do know how much the sales reps, are going crazy to get what they need because they know that if they don't get it, I guess where it is it's more than just a sale. It's more than just a sale. Like, yes, if I don't get that kit on the table, I don't get paid. But when I'm running around Sydney, I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking that patient on the table is someone's, mother, brother, sister, cousin, and they need that specific product to get the result that they want.
Wow.
So that's the drive part. So being able to get up, at all times of the day, being on call all weekend, doing all that is knowing that the product that you have is serving a purpose.
Do you miss that? Or
I miss my surgeons, but it's really hard to do for a long period of time because you're constantly stressed because you don't know when your phone's going to ring and you need to make sure you always have your phone. And so you're anticipating all the time that someone's going to call you. And you're constantly thinking of what could go wrong and your risk mitigation 7 days a week. So
you're basically on alert.
On alert, exactly. So even when you get the product into theatre, you're then worried if you're there in theatre with the surgeon and the surgeon may have never used the kit before, or it's a registrar, or it's someone who doesn't really know it properly, but they wouldn't give you the time before they started operating to explain it. Then in the exact moment that they are using it, they like yell at you that they need you to give them the perfect answer that their mind can process so they can do the job. So it was a lot of fun and I learned a lot. But yeah, it's hard to do for a long period of time.
Interesting, Tanya. Interesting.
That's why, it's really important that surgeons and healthcare professionals take breaks and they are themselves able to switch off because in the last few years with COVID, it's been crazy. And it's not just the surgeons, it's also the nurses, they're under so much pressure all the time. And they, a nurse might have been in a neurosurgery case, and then the next minute she's in a hand case. And obviously in a hand case, if something goes wrong, I mean, obviously you don't want anything to go wrong, but if someone puts like a bone back together in your hand a little bit wrong, you're going to survive, like you're not going to die.
Mm.
You give the wrong equipment to a neurosurgeon who puts something in someone's brain, then that's, you know what I mean? The risk is a lot higher of things going wrong. So that conditioned me. I mean, I guess it fueled my drive. I've always been pretty driven. So it fueled my drive to always do the best job at all times.
Wow. It's
stressful.
I really appreciate you opening the door, Tanya. Wow. It's amazing. You mentioned success leaves crumbs. You also talked about the power of spirituality in your life, how you ask God, what do I need to do? Is that the same? Success leaves crumbs, God leaving you signs. Is that the same thing?
For me, no. Because for example, I guess this is a good example. When I started playing basketball, I couldn't catch a ball. That's not an exaggeration. I literally couldn't catch a ball. And my dad used to say that I used to run like Gumby. And I wasn't, It's like really long, like running funny.
Gotta love dads and the motivation.
I know. Well, it actually did work because I was like, screw you, Dad. Watch how far I'll go. I think that's exactly what I did.
He knew it all along.
Yeah, he did the right thing. So then I was like, so anyway, I always remember it. So I was excited when I went to high school in the US, and I was excited I got to play and practice every day. I still didn't at all like put any clues together like this is how you get better or potential. Like I only went because I wanted to play basketball every day. I didn't go because I thought I'd get a basketball scholarship to university. I didn't even really know what that meant. When the coaches were calling me from university, I was like, I don't really get what's going on.
Yeah, you were still young back then.
Yeah, I arrived in America 3 days after 9/11, which is crazy. I remember
Wow.
pulling out. Like I remember watching, like I walked downstairs from where I was living and I was like, this is crazy. Like I can still remember that. I still remember walking down and I was like, what movie premiere was this? Oh, that was weird.
Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, so then I got my scholarship to go to the US to college, and I was I was tall, like I'm tall, I'm 6'3", and I remember looking around, and someone said, you know, if you want to get better, you always want to play against the best person. So I went to the best person in the team, and I said, how can I learn to be as good as you? Like, what do I need to do? And I just asked that question, and she said, well, these are the things that I do all the time. This is da da da. So then I just modeled myself after her.
Yeah, tell me, Tanya, what were they? I'm curious.
Oh, that's a good question. It's quite some time ago. A lot of it had to do with like strength and conditioning,
getting the body ready,
watching film, visualization. And so I guess this is actually quite perfect that you just asked that question. So this is where success leaves clues again. The same processes that made me successful in sport, or anyone successful in sport, are the same things you can implement in corporate or a business or your coaching or in your personal life. So you start off with a desire to get whatever result. Then you start visualizing yourself having that result. And then you take the actionable steps in between towards, you know, then you'll have the framework that you need, whatever you're missing within yourself, and you know how to then exploit what you're already good at towards that goal. And then throughout the whole process, continually visualizing and doing the reps. So doing the processes, the practice. They say it takes 10,000 hours to become great at something. So being able to just repeat until you keep getting better and keep getting better. And that's where the pull is within yourself. So you have the desire to want to be somewhere, you visualize yourself as already being that person, and then you take all the actionable steps so you bring
to get there.
Yeah. So that's the same thing that I did when I started working in the healthcare sector. I remember I went and had a coffee with the sales rep of the year before, and the highest winner.
You did the same thing.
I did the same thing. I just sat down with him and I had a coffee, and I was like, okay, now I have no idea what I'm doing. Like literally none.
Tell me.
I was like, I've worked in sales before, but I have no idea how this works. It kind of looks like you guys just walk around the office and then you like run, and I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
And he laughed because I've always been like, the only thing I know how to do is to be honest and be myself. Like, I guess it's like a thing where you like sometimes be a little bit political, not very good at it. So I just want to be myself. So then I, had the coffee, and he was like, this is what you need to do. He's like, the cool thing was like, he was like, don't sell for the first 6 months. I was like, what? And that's the funny thing as well.
I'm going to hit a target.
I know. He's like, the thing that you think you're supposed to do is contrary to the thing that you're supposed to do. So I thought, I've got to learn all my products back to front, and I got to start selling. I'm going to sell,
cross-sell,
everything. Yeah, exactly. How can I collaborate? What do I got to do? And he was like, don't do anything. He's like, you got to get a relationship with your customers. He's like, you don't have any permission to go and sell to them, like at all. He's like, they don't know who you are. They don't know what you've done. Like, it's not about you. Sales has got nothing to do with you. And you've always got to remember that. Sales has got to do with what the person needs and the result that they want. And so it was quite funny because that was his advice, the best sales rep. And then, the people that weren't doing so well, get out there and sell. Go. You got to do this. You got to say, these are the exact words.
Let's do a script.
Yeah, exactly.
This is how much.
This is the role play that we'll do, which works. after you got the relationship, but before the relationship, it's kind of like, I guess a good way. A lot of people like to say it is like dating. Like you wouldn't go on the first date with somebody like, "Will you marry me?" So why would you do that in sales? Like if someone on a date with you, like, "Will I marry you?" Like, where's the door? I don't even know what your last name is. I don't know. Like,
I'm
we have
happy. I'm happy just with appetizers.
exactly. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. For me. I always try to make things a game, and it's trying to make things a game now. I've been struggling.
I can tell that you love it.
Yeah, it's good. My coach said to me, because I was like being really hard on myself, and this brings back to the the question about the time with Anders and my husband, and then work. Because sometimes I get frustrated. I'm like, can you guys just like go for a drive, go wherever? Because I'm like so obsessed. I'm like, I want to finish this, and like I want to go through the process.
I get it now. I'm seeing this. I get it.
Yeah. So she said to me when I was like, I'm not getting the result that I want. I'm getting so frustrated. I'm like, she's like, why don't you just switch up your mindset, Tanya? She's like, why don't you just make it a game? Like instead of focusing on X target, just be like, how can I get this target by creating whatever game? So I've done that, and I'm like, oh, if I just make life a game, if I just make things a game, it's so much fun. I need to stop. Like, you need to, like, I think that's probably one of the best advice for people, especially when you're getting overwhelmed. No one's getting out if you're alive. Like, we're all going to die. We've got a finite time. No one knows. Like I read this morning, so sad. Shane Warne passed away.
Yeah, I saw about that. What happened there? I saw a quick tweet.
It's just really like, it's just weird. Like I don't know, my mind can't catch up with these things because you're like, oh, he's so young. Like how could that?
Yeah, 52, I believe.
Yeah,